Camera's going to be there? Okay.
All right. Get down now, okay? Let's start talking. This is so great, eh? Yeah, it's fantastic. Look at all the people here.
I'll stay on the spot.
Why don't you start?
You want to start now? Good morning, everyone. It's a great day here in Welland, a little bit wet. Perhaps there's a few folks that you aren't familiar with, but let me introduce one to start. But first of all, let me recognize that we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, and we thank them very much. We understand here in Welland we've got a great legacy of great activists and great representation, especially at the provincial level. We know we go back to Mel Swart, Peter Cormos, and Cindy Forrester, who's here with us today. And of course, our own MPP at the moment, Jeff Birch. We know what it's like to fight for people. We know what it's like to be in that fight with them, standing shoulder to shoulder. And I couldn't be happier today to present to you my friend, who stood with us shoulder to shoulder, fighting for us, fighting for workers, fighting for people across this great province of Ontario, the leader of the official opposition, our great friend, Andrea Horwath.
Thanks very much, Malcolm. How about we get...
Andrea! 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 Andrea!
Well, thank you. That warmed up my cold little fingers for being out in the rain, I gotta tell you. I feel the love and the warmth in this room. And I do want to say thank you to Malcolm Allen, our candidate right here in this riding during this federal election. And you know, they gave me another job to do, and so I'm going to do that job because it's an important one. We have a number of people here that need to be recognized before the most important person in the room is able to say a few words. And I'm going to start, of course, we recognized Malcolm already. Jeff Birch, who's the MPP for this riding. We have a couple of other, yes, for sure. Give it up for Jeff. We have a couple of other MPPs as well, as you probably have noticed. Wayne Gates, the MPP for Niagara Falls, is here. Gatesy. Jenny Stevens, the MPP for St. Catharines, is here. We have a number of candidates here, but I also want to recognize Cindy Forrester, the former MPP for this riding, who's here with us today. We have Namir Rahman from Niagara West. Brian Barker from Niagara Falls. Dennis Van Meer, St. Catharines. Allison Gillis, Flamborough, Glanbrook. And we also have some city councillors with us from St. Catharines, Carrie Porter and Greg Miller. So thank you all for being here at the fantastic Blue Star, and thank you, John, for being a great host once again to the NDP family. Look, we're here at the last couple of days of the campaign, right? I mean, it is the home stretch, and our momentum continues to grow. Why? Because Canadians know that they have a real choice in this election. A choice for someone who is going to always, always stand up for them. We've had too many decades, too many years of Liberals and Conservatives whose priority is the rich and wealthy Canadians. What we need is somebody who's going to be standing up for everyday people day in and day out. As Malcolm said, fighting for working people, fighting for everyday folks. And I'm proud proud to be here today in the home stretch in a great community, a great NDP supporting community of Welland, to introduce my federal leader, our federal leader, someone who is going to change the way politics is done in Canada, because it's going to be about everyday folks. Let me introduce to you and help you welcome Mr. Jagmeet Singh, NDP leader. Jagmeet, 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 Jagmeet.
Hey! How's it going, Welland? I didn't realize you could pack this many people in a diner. That is pretty impressive. I just got to say, before I go any further, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. It means a lot. I know you've got busy lives and lots of things to do. The fact that so many of you are here today gives me lots of inspiration and courage, because we're here and fighting for all of you. So thank you. And if you give me just a quick moment, I've got to say, this campaign has been really amazing. We've really enjoyed fighting for people. A lot of the reason why I'm even in this position is because of a woman standing right beside me. She was my friend. She's not only my friend, my mentor. She was my previous boss. It's true. And most importantly, in a couple years, she's going to be your next Premier of Ontario. Friends, we've got an incredible team of New Democrats with us here. These are folks that are out here fighting for you. And I want to talk about what's going on in this election. I know you feel it when you talk to your friends and your family, but when I travel across this country, I meet with so many people that tell me that things are tough. They're finding it harder and harder to get the care that they need when their loved ones fall sick. They're finding it harder and harder to pay for medication. The cost of medication in Canada, we're paying some of the highest prices in the world. And we know that families make difficult choices where they don't take the medication they need because they can't afford it. And they choose between paying the rent or buying groceries or buying the medication they need. And I've met far too many families that are they're in a way playing roulette with their life because they can't afford medication. I met a man who's working hard, construction worker. He works on contract. He doesn't have benefits, and he needs hard care medication. But so does his wife, and so does his kid needs medication as well. So instead of buying his own medication, he pays for his kids because he doesn't know what to do. And that shouldn't be a choice that people make. It shouldn't be a choice that people make. And then what are Liberals going to say to families that are making this tough choice? Oh, we'll do another study. Maybe we'll sit down and negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies. Maybe we'll meet with the insurance companies. But they're not going to deliver.
Maybe it's not good enough.
They're not going to deliver. It's been 22 years since Liberals have been talking about pharmacare. Have they delivered for you? No. You know, I've met so many families that tell me that they either are not going to have kids because they can't afford childcare, or they are struggling because childcare costs so much. And Liberals have promised a national childcare program for 26 years. And they just haven't delivered. You know, families can't afford to wait. Young people who are worried about the future of this planet and want to see real action on climate change and the climate crisis. They can't wait. Those young kids, they can't wait. They're worried about the future. Their eyes are filled with fear when they should be filled with hope. And they can't be told that what Mr. Trudeau is saying, oh, you know what, maybe we'll see what we do down the road. He bought a pipeline. He's not committed. He's not committed to real change. And so I think, you know, that's what people are going through. People are struggling. And we know that Mr. Trudeau, he's chosen and again and again. When he gets a chance to make a decision, whether it's between helping out people who need medication or protecting the pharmaceutical industry, guess who he chooses? He does it time and time again. He chooses big business. He works very hard for the powerful and wealthy, and it hurts everyone else. He's choosing to hurt everyone else when he does that. And I can give you an example with medication. He promised in 2015, during an election just like this, he promised to lower the cost of medication. And it would have saved families thousands of dollars. It was a no-cost solution. It just meant updating the list of countries we compare when we set our prices. And he didn't do it. 4 years later, he didn't do it. And we're all wondering, well, this would have cost us nothing. Why didn't he do it? Well, guess what he did? He met with the pharmaceutical lobbyists. Him and his government met with the insurance lobbyists over 875 times. And so he chose very clearly, not by chance, he chose to protect the profits of the powerful over helping families that needed it. When people tell me that they're having a hard time finding housing, housing is really tough right now. People can't find a home to own. They can barely find a place to rent, right? And now, given this crisis, Mr. Trudeau again had a choice. He could find $14 billion for the richest corporations in the last fall economic statement so they could buy corporate jets and limousines. But when families said, hey, we need help with housing, he's spending 19% less per GDP than the Harper government on housing. Take that in. He's spending less than conservatives. He's saying, be afraid of conservatives, be afraid of their cuts, and he's spending less as a percentage of GDP on housing than the conservatives. Here's the thing. Mr. Trudeau says a lot of nice things in public, but when he's behind closed doors, meeting with the powerful and wealthy executives and lobbyists, he chooses them over people. That's the reality. And now, I don't know if I need to make this argument in this room, but the conservatives, they're not also going to make things better. And I got Andrea right here beside me who can talk about how viciously conservatives cut all the services and health care that families need. And I know you've been feeling those cuts. You know, the fact is conservatives will promise you a couple dollars in your pockets. They will. And they might do that. They might get you a couple dollars in your pockets. But what they're going to do is they're going to certainly cut a little bit of taxes. But what do they also cut? They cut education. They cut services. They cut healthcare. They cut nurses. They cut all the things that you need, all the things that your family need. And you know what it does? It ends up costing you a lot more. It costs families a lot more. So they're not the solution. And now, there's the thing. Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Scheer are going to tell you that you only have two choices in this election. You can only choose between the Liberals who have let you down and the Conservatives that are going to cut services. That is not the choice you have in this election. You have a choice. You don't have to choose between Liberals and Conservatives. There is another choice in this election. You can choose someone that's in it for you, that's going to fight for you. You know, people often ask me, well, what's the difference? You promised to bring in these big changes. Why should we believe you? And I say, oh, let me tell you why. I'm a New Democrat. I don't work for the rich and powerful. I work for all of you. Yeah! And so, in this election, you can choose someone that's going to fight for you. That was the cutest thing ever. That's so cute. I want to give you the microphone if you get a chance. Come on up. If you can bring that young one on up here, we'll get them on the microphone. That's a future leader right there. In this election, you can choose someone that's going to fight for you, that's going to fight for that little kid, that's going to fight for your future. And you know in Welland, you know this really well. You've elected fighters before. You've elected Peter Kormos, who fought for you. You've elected Cindy Forrester, a fighter. And I hope you're going to re-elect this man here, Malcolm Allen. Here he is. You want to say it? Okay, we're just going to do it one time. I'm just going to break this right away. NDP.
NDP.
It's so cute. Hey, it's always a gamble with kids. It's okay. It's always good. You're awesome. Thank you. He did it when it counted with no attention on him. He did it when it counted. You're the best. That's the best. And so, friends, so in this election, I want to make one thing really clear to everyone out there. You have a choice in this election. Mr. Trudeau has chosen the powerful and the wealthy. He's not willing to do what it takes. New Democrats are going to fight for you. We're going to fight for universal pharmacare for everyone. You're going to get that. We're going to make sure if you need medication in our country, you use your health card, not your credit card. We're going to bring in a national dental care program. That's going to mean that 4.3 million Canadians who don't have coverage are going to get coverage right away. We're going to take on those cell phone and internet companies that are exploiting you. We're going to put in a price cap to make sure they cannot charge you more than the average OECD country. We're going to make real investments in housing and make sure people can find a place to call home. And now people are going to ask us, how are you going to pay for all of this? Right? That comes up all the time. Well, you know what? We're not afraid to say this. We're going to make the very richest Canadians, those at the very, very top, pay their fair share. We're going to do something that liberals have never talked about because they're afraid to do it. Conservatives certainly won't do it. We're going to tax the super wealthy, those who have fortunes of over $20 million. We're going to ask them to pay a little bit more. There we are. Our plan can raise as much as $70 billion. That's massive revenue increases to invest in the services and the healthcare that families need. We're going to close offshore tax havens. We're going to close loopholes. We're going to make sure that instead of working families and low and middle income people, middle class families, they don't have to carry the burden. It should be the very richest that are paying their fair share to pay for the services that we need. And so I ask you in this election, do not vote out of fear. Vote for something. Vote for fighters, people who are on your side. New Democrats beat conservatives. New Democrats in this riding will beat conservatives. It'll be a New Democrat. I want to leave you with this final thought. You know, we talked about choices. We're in this position today because of choices that Mr. Trudeau made. He chose the pharmaceutical industry over families that needed medication. He chose the wealthy corporations over families that needed housing. He chose the rich and powerful. I don't work for the rich and powerful. I don't choose them. I choose all of you. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. Thank you very much. NDP, 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 NDP. Oh, wow. Listen. I gotta give one more time, if you can all join me in giving John from Blue Star Diner a lot of love. A big round of applause for letting us be here. And John. So John, basically, we took a picture outside. This is pretty incredible. We took the picture, and it's already in a frame. I hope we did that for you. Was that us? Okay.
I'll send you one.
That is awesome. And so, a beautiful picture. No, this is on us, man. Don't worry. You let us use your space. I'm sure we can figure that out. That's beautiful.
We're gonna hang it up in the hallway there.
You're gonna hang it up for us. Oh, thank you, sir. That's so beautiful. There it is. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny from Blue Star, everybody. You know, I think this might be one of the first pictures I'll have up on a diner wall. So I'm pretty honored. That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to come back here, Johnny, and have some food. Maybe I'll do it with Wayne. I'm going to take a whole bunch of, I'll chat with all you guys, but I'm going to do one thing is the media is traveling with us, so we're going to move to questions from the media. They're going to do a scrum, and then I'll come chat with all you guys.
Hi there, Mr. Singh. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC National News.
Hi there.
Hi there. You keep saying that the Liberals are choosing pharmaceutical companies over people, but how can you square the fact that those same companies are literally taking the government to court because they're trying to lower drug prices?
Well, I mean, we've got some clear evidence. There was a clear promise that was made by the Liberal government, by Mr. Trudeau, and that promise was to update the list of companies the countries used to set the prices for medication. Over a period of years, 4 years, the Liberal government met with the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance lobbyists over 875 times, and they did not deliver that. It was a campaign promise, cost $0, and they didn't do it in 4 years. And now, right at the end of their 4-year mandate, during the election period, they've re-announced that they're going to do it again. The evidence is clear. They didn't protect families. They protected the profits of the pharmaceuticals.
Let me come back a little bit on that.
Sure.
You're saying that they didn't protect families, but in the last budget, too, they did start putting money towards a national pharmacare plan, and it's something that has to be done in order to get to the pharmacare plan. So $35 million to create the Canadian Drug Agency, to get access to drugs, which would make a national list for medications. Also $500 million to lower the cost of those rare drugs for rare diseases. So do you give them credit for that?
Not at all. What they're doing is this. Not at all. No. When the first commission came out, the first commission back in the 60s, when we were talking about bringing in universal health care, in that commission, in that royal commission, it said, we need to have pharmacare. National public pharmacare. Their own committee. The Liberals struck a committee with Dr. Hoskins, and that committee found that the healthcare, the pharmacare system should be universal, single payer, and public. The Liberals have not committed to that. To date, their own committee has recommended something, and they're not willing to say, yes, we'll do it. So,
they have to get moved to a certain point to get there? Like, you can't just put it in.
we can just put it in. Yes, we can. We can. You've got to have the courage. People can't. No, but no, Hannah, it's a really good question. I want to tell you, the thing is that this is what Liberals do. They kind of like, they eke things out, they drag it out, they give you a little bit, and they think that that's good enough. And I've met with so many families and heard heartbreaking stories. Seniors who have coverage. They've got coverage, but they tell me their coverage means for each of the couple, a husband and wife, their coverage is a $2,500 deductible each. So they've got pharmacare coverage, medication coverage, drug benefits, but each of them have to pay $2,500 first. That means a $5,000 for the family before they get any coverage. That's practically no coverage. And they're not alone. Many people have these stories where their copays and their deductibles are so high, it's effectively not being covered. So when we talk about the millions of Canadians that have no coverage, there's still millions of Canadians that have some coverage that's effectively no coverage. And we know that what the Liberals are proposing is to just drag this out for years and years. For families that spend thousands of dollars a year on medication, they're asking them to spend tens of thousands of dollars before they get any help. And that's just wrong. We are going to change that. So they just asked me to do this in French, so I'm going to do it in French one time. Donc, non, je ne suis satisfait avec les propos des gouvernements libéraux. Ils ont toujours donné des belles paroles. Ils ont dit qu'on prend un petit pas, mais c'est insuffisant. Ce qu'il faut faire, c'est de prendre des mesures concrètes et audacieuses. Il y a 22 ans que les gouvernements libéraux ont promis de mettre en œuvre une assurance médicaments universelle, et c'est trop longtemps. Et ce qu'il faut faire, c'est d'avoir du courage de faire face aux grandes compagnies pharmaceutiques et dire qu'on va choisir les gens par les profits des grandes compagnies. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on va faire. On va mettre en œuvre un programme d'assurance médicaments universel qui va sauver de l'argent pour les familles. On est le seul pays au monde qui a un système de santé universel, qui n'est pas un système d'assurance médicaments universel et public. On peut le faire et on va le faire.
De Radio-Canada. Hier, vous étiez à Montréal. Vous avez fait un rapprochement entre certains candidats du Bloc et Marine Le Pen et le Front national. Est-ce que vous regrettez d'être allé si loin que de comparer le Bloc à une formation d'extrême droite en France?
J'ai dit qu'ils sont des fans, mais je suis clair que pour le Québec, le choix progressiste, c'est nous, les néo-démocrates. Et ça, c'est exactement ce que je veux montrer. Parce que les propos, les révélations des dernières semaines montrent que pour plusieurs personnes au Québec, le Bloc ne représente pas une option progressiste. Et j'ai voulu donner une ouverture que nous sommes l'option pour les gens qui veulent avoir une option progressiste.
Vous regrettez pas d'avoir associé le Bloc, pardonnez-moi, avoir associé le Bloc au Front national, là, c'est un gros saut là, que vous faites. Là. Pourquoi?
Je n'ai pas dit qu'ils sont associés. Ce que j'ai dit, c'est qu'on a des membres de Bloc qui sont des fans de ce groupe et ça, c'est quelque chose qui est troublant. Sure. I said in my speech yesterday that it's troubling that the Bloc has the certain revelations that came out with certain comments they've made and the fact that they've got members that were fans of really divisive groups. And that makes it clear that they're not really the progressive option for Quebecers. And I said, if you want a progressive option in Quebec, for those who are looking for a home, we are your home. New Democrats are your home. Yes.
Janice Dixon, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Janice.
Hi. I'm wondering what you think about comments Andrew Scheer made last night in a CTV interview. He said that he hopes the other parties respect the fact that whoever wins the most seats should get to form government. What do you think about that?
I think that Canadians expect that right now we've got an electoral system that means that the results of elections have often been ones where less than half of Canadians choose a certain party and they get all the power. And that's wrong. And we were promised by Mr. Trudeau that this would change. He said we would end first past the post systems because it's so unfair. And he broke that promise. You know, in fact, we counted how many times he said it. In the last electoral campaign, it was a longer one, so he had a lot of time to say this. But he made that promise at least 1,800 times. Yeah, 1,800 times he talked about the fact that some form or other of saying that this would be the last election under the first past the post system. He said some variation of that 1,800 times. It is unreal. And 4 years later, it's another election under the first past the post system. So what I want to say to Canadians is they feel often that their vote doesn't matter. They feel like their vote doesn't count. And they feel sad because 60% of Canadians regularly, consistently vote against the Conservative government or Conservative Party. And so it's wrong for the Conservatives to think that with less than 40% of the power or vote, they deserve the majority of power. That's wrong. And that's why New Democrats have committed, that's why I've committed to bringing in at the federal level a proportional, mixed member proportional representation to make sure everyone's vote counts. She's got what was the... Oh, that was, Janice said that was, you were saying en français? Oh, that's what she said. Okay. I thought she had a follow-up. En français, oui. Donc, oui, merci beaucoup. Yeah. Yeah. Donc la réalité, c'est au Canada, souvent, ce qu'on veut, c'est un parti avec moins de 40%, moins de la moitié de appui du Canada. Il gagne la majorité des pouvoirs. Et ce n'est pas acceptable. Donc, ce qu'on propose, c'est clair, 60% des Canadiens régulièrement votent contre les conservateurs, votent pour une option alternative. Donc, M. Trudeau, l'ancien gouvernement, M. Trudeau et les libéraux, ils ont promis 1800 fois, ils ont dit ça 1800 fois qu'ils vont changer le système électoral. Et après 4 ans, ils ne l'ont pas fait parce qu'ils ont dit que ce n'est pas dans leur avantage, en fait. Et ce qu'on propose, c'est il faut donner le pouvoir aux gens. Il faut s'assurer que chaque vote compte. Donc, ce qu'on propose de faire, c'est de mettre en œuvre un système de réforme électorale représentation proportionnelle pour donner le pouvoir aux gens.
So just to be clear, you would not respect if Andrew Scheer wins the most seats, you would not allow him to form government. You would oppose that.
We don't respect conservatives now. No, I wanted the funny setup of the question. What I mean is that, no, I mean, just because Mr. Scheer thinks that if he gets a certain number of seats that we're going to give up fighting against conservatives, no, we're going to always fight conservatives because we don't believe in their cuts to services. We don't believe in how they could harm people. We're going to fight that. Non, on va continuer de lutter contre les conservateurs. On n'est pas d'accord avec les coupures les conservateurs. Ce qu'ils font, c'est de toujours couper les services, les investissements dans les soins de santé. Donc, on va lutter contre ça. Et pour nous, si M. Scheer parle de respect, il ne respecte pas les gens. Il coupe les services. Il rend la vie plus difficile. Donc, on va toujours lutter contre ça.
I'm Mr. Singh, Kevin Gallagher with CTV National News. On this particular topic, because the question's not about whether you're going to fight conservatives or not. You made that clear the entire campaign. The question really is whether this tradition or convention that the incumbent government in a minority situation should get first crack at forming government. This is what Mr. Scheer rejected last night in the CTV interview. So do you agree with Mr. Scheer that it's fine if the party that has the most seats in a minority situation should then have first crack at forming government, or should there be a respect to this convention that the incumbent government might have first crack to either form a minority or a coalition?
Right. At the end of the day, I think that what Canadians, if I could just simplify the situation, at the end of the day, Canadians, the vast majority of them, do not want conservatives to come in and start cutting services. So whatever we can do to ensure that that doesn't happen is what New Democrats are committing to doing. I want to be the Prime Minister of Canada to make a better future. And I want to be Prime Minister to put in place our programs and our services and our investments that are going to make people's lives better. And I'm going to choose people. But whatever Canadians choose, I want Canadians to win. And so I want them to know if you vote enough New Democrats in, New Democrats like Malcolm Allen here in Welland, New Democrats across Canada, if you vote in New Democrats, you're going to get the things that you need because we're going to fight for you. We're in it for you and we're going to fight for you. So whatever the machinations are after the election, know this. You've got New Democrats on your side. You've got fighters who are going to stand up for you.
I have a question from my colleague in Vancouver, Melanie Nagy, on the Accessible Canada Act. Of course, that's a piece of legislation brought in by the Liberals. It's estimated that 1 in 5 Canadians over the age of 15 is living with a disability, and many within the community feel there's little to no attention being given to those issues this election campaign. And many feel that the current act doesn't go far enough to protect the rights of disabled Canadians. So what would you do if you're into government to take action on the Accessible Canada Act?
This is a struggle that a lot of Canadians face, not feeling like they belong for what they look like or their identity, but then for their abilities. And the fact that Canada has a long way to go to make sure it's more accessible to people that are living with disabilities is a real challenge and something that really impacts a lot of people. What we're proposing in our commitments and what we've called for a number of years, both provincially and federally, is to have a strategy on making sure we address the needs of people living with disabilities. So we're calling for a national strategy on developing a program and a plan to make sure that all of Canada is accessible, where no matter what your abilities are, you're welcomed and you're able to be a part of society. And that's something we're committing to.
Mr. Singh, Teresa Wright from the Canadian Press.
Hi, Teresa.
I asked you this question the other day, and I don't feel that I really got a fulsome answer about, we're here again in Ontario. We spent the day in Quebec yesterday. You've spent a lot of time on the West Coast. And that seems to be kind of where a lot of the leaders are spending their time in this election. What does that say to voters who live in other areas of the country in terms of the weight of their vote in this election?
I think that everyone in Canada should know that they count and they matter. And it's a big country, and in a short election period, it's tough to get around the whole country. And for a lot of folks out there that I haven't been able to see, I wish I could be able to connect with you and spend time with you. It's a challenge in a country as big as ours. But I want people to know, no matter where they live in Canada, what we've seen over the past number of years with Liberals and with Conservatives is that they've been choosing again and again to put in place decisions and policies that make it easier for the richest and harder for everyone else. I want to change that. I want to bring in policies and commitments that are actually going to lift up people. Our plan to bring in universal pharmacare for all is going to lift up people. Our national dental care program is going to lift up people. Our plan to invest in housing and affordable housing is going to help out families. We want to make sure young people know that we're fighting the climate crisis like we want to win it. We can do all these things, and no matter where you live in Canada, you can count on New Democrats to fight for you.
I also have a question about some comments that you made to the Winnipeg Free Press in terms of that you suggested that you might withhold or withhold or have conversations about the healthcare transfers if they didn't reopen the ER. That is a provincial responsibility. And given the fact that you've said that you will not interfere with Bill 21 in Quebec because that is a provincial issue, why are you now suggesting that you might get involved in a provincial issue in Winnipeg?
So we're going to fight for healthcare. And just because conservative governments want to cut healthcare doesn't mean we're going to give up. We're going to fight for healthcare. And we've got a lot of tools that we can use. When we invest in things like universal pharmacare and our national dental care program, these are ways that are going to make sure provinces are going to feel less burden on them. We have healthcare transfers that go towards funding better healthcare. Those have been cut over the years. If we make more investments, we can encourage better decisions. We can encourage more healthcare delivered to people. We can encourage, with more funding, more centers, more hospitals. We can encourage better frontline care. If we deliver the funding, we can get the results. And what we've seen over the past decades is that Liberals and Conservatives have been cutting that funding. It used to be 50-50, and now it's 25-75. So how can a federal government really meaningfully be a champion for healthcare when they've been slashing healthcare investments? We're going to change that. We're going to make more investments, and we'll have more of a footing to push for better healthcare for Canadians no matter where they live.
I'm sorry, but I still feel you haven't answered the question.
Sure.
Getting involved in a provincial issue that is a provincial responsibility, how do you feel as though you can do that, to force a province to reopen an ER when that's not a federal responsibility?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have the power to force anything, but we have the power to be persuasive. We have the power to encourage things. If we make investments in healthcare, we can encourage better healthcare delivery. When we negotiate things like universal pharmacare and national dental care, when we negotiate and deliver these programs and these services that help out Canadians, we can sit down with provinces and talk about, well, we're increasing investments, we want to see better healthcare delivered. The Canada Health Act also has certain requirements that the money is transferred for publicly delivered services. And we've seen in some provinces, Conservatives try to privatize publicly delivered services, and they've been fined for doing that. There are tools that we have, but we've not seen Liberals or Conservatives willing to use those tools to encourage better healthcare for Canadians. I'm different. I'm going to fight for healthcare. I don't care who's in government. I'm going to work with them and say, we need better healthcare. Canadians are counting on it, and I'm not going to give up fighting for that.
I'm Shelby Knox from 610 CKTV News in St. Catharines. Given that you're appearing in Niagara just days before the election, many would take that as a sign that this region is important to you come Monday. Can you tell me, based on what you're hearing from the people here in Niagara, including your candidates, what are you going to do to specifically help this region?
Well, I've been spending a lot of time chatting with Malcolm about this. So we know that in Welland, like many communities, healthcare is incredibly important. Our national pharmacare program is going to help a lot of people here in Welland and folks across Canada. Our plan to deliver national dental care, which is a publicly delivered insurance program that we're going to put in place that's going to literally help out 4.3 million Canadians immediately. That's going to provide dental care services. It's going to save families thousands of dollars. We've estimated for a family of 4, with the average needs, that could be as much as $1,240 a year that's saved with our plan for families that don't have dental care services or a coverage right now. So these are real things that we're going to do for healthcare. We've talked about manufacturing. Welland has a strong manufacturing base. We need to make sure that that's strong and that's growing. So we've got a couple of proposals to reinvest back into our manufacturing sector. One of our proposals also helps us fight the climate crisis, is to make sure we retrofit all homes and buildings. And that's going to help. Yeah. That's going to help create jobs in local communities. We're also going to invest massively in housing, and housing is also going to create jobs in communities. Those are just some of the priorities. I'm sure there's many more, but those are some of the top priorities that we're going to work on right away.
Hi, Mr. Singh, I'm back again.
Hi.
Just when we're talking about Mr. Scheer and the fact that, he wants people to respect if he wins the most seats, he's making it sound like a coalition is a dirty word. What do you think about that?
It's not. It isn't, though. That's it.
Given some fear about a coalition because we've seen in the past that they've made it kind of a dirty word.
I can tell you this. If you look around and think about the things that we're proud of as Canadians, the things that make us proud of the fact that we take care of one another, our universal healthcare system, that came in because Tommy Douglas, New Democrats, and progressives pushed for it. If you look at our investments in making sure seniors can live and retire with dignity, our old age pensions, our CPP, and our OAS, these are things that New Democrats push for in minority sittings. We know that when New Democrats are elected in big numbers, people win. That's our message. If you elect New Democrats, people win. And just to be fair, I mean, whatever that looks like, I'm not bogged down on what the details are. Whatever Canadians choose, in any form, if you have New Democrats, whether we're in government, which I'd love to be in government, please let that happen. Whether that's in opposition, whether that's working together with others, whether that's in a coalition, whatever it is, I want Canadians to know if you vote New Democrat, you get fighters, you get people on your side, people who are going to fight for you and make your life better, and that's what I want people to know.
Last question here. Hi, sir. Kevin Gallagher again.
Hi there,
So
Kevin.
tonight, you'll be campaigning in Brampton. Your candidate, Jordan Boswell, recently it's come to light that he's made some sexist and offensive comments online, years ago, of course, as many of these things dug up, but they're about a former Indigenous sex worker who at the time was speaking out against human trafficking. So he has apologized now, but have you spoken with this candidate, and is this something that you can allow in your party?
I've not spoken with him, but it is absolutely wrong. The comments were horribly wrong and harmful and hurtful. But I know that he has not only taken responsibility, but is committed to behavior and a future where that's not what he believes, and he's absolutely rejected those comments he's made in the past. And I believe the two things we need, or three things we need for someone to remain a member of our team, is accepting something they did that's wrong, committing with clear evidence that they've changed and that they're moving forward in a new way, and that they believe in our values as a party. If those things are satisfied, I'm happy to continue to have people on my team, but it's clear that those comments were absolutely wrong and they were hurtful.
What would you say to the sex worker that was the target?
That I'm really, I'm really sorry that those comments were made. They should never have been made. They're very hurtful. I believe that every human being deserves dignity and respect, and there's lots of people that are being marginalized that then are also on top of that hurt with comments like that, and that's wrong. We need to lift people up, make their lives safer, make their lives better, and they do not deserve to be mistreated or insulted in any way. Okay, thank you so much. I'll come chat with all of you. I'll come walk around. We'll have a nice chat. Thank you so much, my friends. Thank you.